Welcome back, everybody. David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. It's great to be with you, however and wherever you may be listening from. We are joined by Sean Davis. He is a Lakers insider. There is no question about that. Sean, I know it's been a rough week, but I appreciate you taking the time to join us and give us some insight on the Lakers. So with all that being said, put into perspective, man, how are you handling and coping the lack of basketball for LA for the next 2 months?
Yeah, it sucks. Honestly, my very first reaction to Game Five was like, "Dang, I can't even be mad at Jamal because that was just an incredible shot, and he did it." That was my same reaction after Game Two. It sucks, but excited for Summer League and see what the Lakers Summer League team looks like, and really just looking forward to how they're able to build this team out heading into this summer.
Absolutely. You do a really good job as an analyst for Lakers Nation. You obviously know what it's like to coach. You do that for Aiken Hoops. And so my question for you is, and you've taken some flack for this, and you have stood your ground. When you look over the last 2 years, you were a proponent of yeah, you knew I was going here. You were a proponent of the Darvin Ham hire. Sean, my thing is this. It's just the wrong matchup for them. It
Yeah.
doesn't speak to Darvin Ham being an incompetent coach. He got as far as he could last year, and he got as far as he could this year. You and I both know the Lakers, they're the second best team in the West. I think this is the wrong matchup. I still think Darvin Ham is the right coach for this team. He's got to work on some adjustments using, timeouts and using coaching challenges, but I still think he's the right team. If I were to say to you, the Lakers are going to let go of Darvin Ham after year two, what would your response be to that decision?
My response would be that I do think it's the right decision personally. I think that the quote that really kind of did it for me was I think one AD said it. AD said it after game two. We don't know what we're doing out there at the time. I was like, that's a really bad look for the coaching staff. And then I want to say in Shams Charania's article, maybe an hour after game five, where the players in layman's terms kind of are like the source, but it's pretty clear as the players say in layman's terms, yeah, Darvin's a great dude, but we need somebody that can actually coach us basketball. Which the thing about Darvin heading into like what he got to LA was we weren't really sure of his X's and O's like prowess. We knew he was going to be, or you were hoping that he was going to be a really good leader in the locker room, help galvanize some of the guys, especially after the last Frank Vogel year where things kind of went downhill from a locker room perspective. And I feel like the Lakers tried to fix that with Darvin. But if Darvin left, and this is going to get misaggregated into me being a Darvin Ham believer again, I mean, at this point, so what? If Darvin Ham, if you told me Darvin Ham left and went, I know this isn't a likely spot, but like let's say he got the Charlotte job miraculously, right? And Charlotte turned it around in a couple of years, I wouldn't be surprised. I just think a spot like that makes more sense for Darvin than LA. Good dude by all accounts. I haven't heard a bad thing about it. Yeah, I heard a bad thing about him, but there's some tactical things he has to get better at. There's the like game management stuff he has to get better at, and I just think it ultimately wasn't the right pairing.
So, Sean, you bring up the Charlotte head coaching job, and we all know the guy rumored to have taken that head coaching job. He is a 15-year NBA veteran. He is killing it. I mean, you think Sean Davis is killing it on podcasts, which he is, by the way. But JJ Redick, I mean, he blows everybody out of the water with what he's been able to do. There's been theories thrown out there.
Yeah.
JJ and LeBron doing their podcast together. A lot of people feel like that is setting up the table for what is going to transpire with JJ Redick ultimately becoming the next Lakers head coach. Do you see that coming to fruition? Do you see JJ Redick being the best fit out there right now for the head coach of the Lakers and hopefully, allowing LeBron to come back for year number 6 in LA and ultimately year number 22 in the NBA?
I would be surprised if they went after JJ Redick and actually got him in LA. Is he going to get an interview? Absolutely. I would bet a large amount of money that JJ Redick would at least get an interview. But I don't know. I don't love the fit. I think they would have to really botch the hire, in my opinion, for Braun to really consider leaving. I think that, I mean, you're kind of hopeful somehow the Clippers just pull a Clipper and fire Ty Lue, because that's easily where I would go. I think there's a couple other options that I think they would probably go to. Like, Well, at that point, I mean, do you go Kenny Atkinson? Like, and that's the thing, and that's why I can't rule it out, right? Because I think outside of Ty Lue, there aren't a bunch of great options available
I
to
got one
where.
for you, Sean. So
Okay,
you've heard this before, and this is completely off the radar.
sure.
But I want to get your take on this because
Okay.
it bothers me. It bothers me to the core that a guy that turned around one franchise and absolutely put them on a path to winning championships got ousted at ESPN, which he had no business doing, in my humble
Okay.
opinion. I thought he was great on the broadcast. You know exactly where I'm going with this. And it's been
Yep.
a decade. It's been a decade since the guy has gotten an opportunity to be a head coach. And there have been ample opportunities. We have seen such mediocrity at head coaches in the NBA. You talk about Frank Vogel. How many more opportunities is this guy going to get? When is Mark Jackson going to get that next head coaching gig? Because I think if you want to sway LeBron for staying in LA, and Sean, and this is a two-part question. Mark Jackson, where do you fall on him in terms of being the Lakers' next head coach? Do you see this as one of the few guys out there right now that you know would have LeBron's ear? And then secondly, and I know where you're going with this. Are you sure that LeBron James is coming back for LA?
So I'm going to answer the second question first.
Okay.
Obviously, my short no. Am I really freaking confident? Yeah, because I just look at the landscape of the league right now. I'm like, where are you going to go? Philly is probably the biggest contender and biggest threat, in my opinion. They have the money, they have the stars, big city, makes the most sense, right? As I don't want to knock Philly, but it kind of has everything LA has, except on that like LA, like the 70
It's
degree
LA.
weather all year, whatever.
Yeah.
It's LA,
Yeah.
right? Don't need to
Yeah.
explain that.
Right.
But
Correct.
Philly has a lot of the same perks from a player like interest standpoint. Like I said, the stars, really good head coach and Nick Nurse. They have the money to give you, etc. Outside of Philly, I'm like, and where are you going to go, honestly? So I'm pretty confident that Braun is in LA, which, and now answering the first question, look, if honestly, my biggest worry with Mark Jackson is that he hasn't coached in 10 years in any capacity. If Mark Jackson coached 4 years ago, okay, cool. You can really easily like sell me on the idea. But I mean, 10 years ago, who would have won the finals? Is that the year San Antonio won and beat that Braun team in Miami? I think so,
2000,
right?
you're 100% right. 2014 was when they had the biggest point per game differential in NBA Finals history when they got
Yeah.
revenge on the Heat. Exactly. And then we thought you're 100% right. But Sean, my rebuttal to that
Okay.
would be, look, if you're a great basketball mind, you're a great basketball mind. It worked
Sure.
out well with Mike Fratello when he had a big gap in his NBA
Sure.
career. It worked out extremely well for Hubie Brown. And the
Yeah.
reason why Hubie Brown is able to broadcast into his 90s is because of the second life he had in his coaching career when he won
Yeah.
Coach of the Year with Memphis when he was in his early 70s.
Mm-hmm. So, well, and this kind of goes back to the point I was getting to with the JJ Redick discussion.
Yeah.
This class of coaches that like are available, especially at like a big guy I wanted was Jordy Fernandez, who Brooklyn scooped up, which I think is a phenomenal hire for them. Kevin Young, Phoenix assistant, gets the BYU job in college. Great hire for them, I think. So with two of my personal favorites now gone, like I could almost see the Lakers pull off any of these hires and just hire any of these dudes because it is such a unknown like group of hires where last summer Budenholzer gets fired, Doc Rivers is available, Nick Nurse is available, Monty Williams is available. We were like, oh, and they still have the plethora of great assistant coaches that are obviously in the market as well. So last off season, you're like, okay, we could just pick our choosing here. Like, who do we really want to go after? Frank Vogel was a candidate in a few different jobs. But like I said, this year you are kind of getting to like a Mark Jackson, Kenny Atkinson, Terry Stotts. I mean, the JJ Redicks of the world, right? So I say all that to say, no Lakers head coaching hire would surprise me. That doesn't mean I'm going to like it per se, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or
No,
be a massive fan of it. I still have my favorites, but nothing would really surprise me because this is a weaker hiring cycle.
I know, it makes sense. And again, we are joined by Sean Davis. He's a coach, he's a coordinator. He also does a wonderful job as an NBA analyst for Lakers Nation. He's really built a huge following for himself. He's got a lot of people that take his word very seriously, as they should. The guy has been around basketball for a long time, and it's great to have him here on the Infinity Sports Network. So, Sean, I kiss your ass there, so I can now bring it down a peg. No, I'm kidding. But
you put me in the same sense as JJ Redick earlier. I'm not sure that like they could get
oh
any.
no, no. I put JJ above you. But what I was
I
saying,
know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
right. But what I was saying was you're killing him, and JJ puts everyone else.
JJ's the best. Like I think he's
legs,
the best.
I think
legs awesome too.
I think Legler's the best, and that's where I'm going next. He's right on this. You talk about the motivation for LeBron.
Okay.
Everyone's making this out to be he wants to play with his son in the worst way possible. I think if you're LeBron, that's a really nice aspect of your life, that you had a kid so young that you were financially capable to be able to provide a living for your family right away, and you were able to make everything work. And he's been brilliant on and off the court. There's no denying that. But he's also one of the smartest people there is that's ever played basketball. And he understands the landscape right now. Sean, outside of a bubble, and you're well aware of this, he's only one other time gone past the first round in the West. So we're talking 1 of 6 years, misses the playoffs, then goes to the bubble. Then the next year, he's out in the first round. The next year, completely misses the playoffs. And then the next year, we know that there's the one other time he has made it out of the first round in the West. I don't have to remind you what happened his last 8 years in the East. The guy made the finals every single year. I don't see him staying in LA because of that. Because at this point, we understand how short the remainder of his NBA career is going to be. But I hope for your sake, I hope for your fans' sake, that he does come back to LA, because I do think that's the best option they have of obviously competing. And I say all that to say this. You can't, correct me if I'm wrong, you cannot win the way this roster is constructed right now. I understand Anthony Davis was incredibly durable this year, which is an oddity for that guy. He played 75 games. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure he played 75 regular season games. That's
76.
76. That's incredible.
77 if you want to count that Pacers game, which does not count for some freaking reason. But
and it should, and it should count towards the Anthony Davis stats, because that's arguably the best game of his entire career. And he was pretty damn good in the bubble, especially against the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. But I say all that to say this: you got to make a change at your third banana. Austin Reeves is really good. He cannot be the third best player on your team. D'Angelo Russell has the talent to be the third best player on a championship team, but he's just too inconsistent. LeBron and AD have proven that they can be a 1-2 combination, but you need a really strong 3. Where do the Lakers go to truly put this team at an advantage when they face the Denver Nuggets again? Because that seems to be an inevitability at this point.
Man, you're just firing off all the topics that I've been getting criticized for on Twitter recently. So
okay, the Darvin Ham thing was intentional. Everything else is just organic.
Because, okay, for one, I truly think this player I'm about to mention is like severely underrated, and I'm curious your thoughts on this guy as well. But sure. I think you go after Trey Young, and hear me out, right? I think you go after Trey Young. There are, let me start with the downsides. I think everybody's aware he is undersized. He is a small guard. He is a bad defender. He does have bad off-ball fit offensively. That is all very much true.
Sean, do you trust his durability? You trust his ability to stay healthy for an entire season? I don't. You trust him in April, May to even be on the court? I don't.
I think if he's next to Bron AD, where like he doesn't have to have the ball every single time. And I think also like the Lakers, because of AD, could be able to hide him a little bit more defensively so he doesn't get more banged up, things of that nature. Sure. I think he could be in a better position in LA. But I think while everybody raves, and not even rave, that's the wrong word, but like props up the things Trey Young is bad at, I feel like we ignore everything that Trey Young is good at, where he is a generational, I use that word very lightly, generational playmaker. One of the 5, if you want to be loose, 10 best playmakers in the NBA currently. You
can't debate that. I am 1000% with you. Like, if memory serves me correctly, I think he's one of the top 12 scorers in the history of the NBA in points per game, and he's top 5 or 6. Like, it's Stockton,
and then you add the
Magic.
Assists, like,
it's incredible. Yeah, but the problem is, and Sean, this is what we kind of saw with Washington in Bradley Beal. He put up great numbers. You start to put him in truly meaningful games, that guy disappears because he was always the focal point of every single offensive set that they ran. So the stats were eye popping. You put him in a system where he is the third guy, all of a sudden he doesn't know what to do with himself. And my fear for Trey Young is he's going to disappear the way that Bradley Beal disappeared for Phoenix.
So the reason why I'm going to disagree with that, and this is fun, having this back and forth is fun. The reason why I disagree with that is because Bradley Beal in Washington wasn't able to do what Trey Young did in Atlanta, where Trey Young, call it a weak Eastern Conference or not, it's an Eastern Conference Finals. I don't give a crap. It's still an Eastern Conference Finals where he was phenomenal throughout that playoff run. And then you have last year even against the number one seeded, they were one seed, right? Yeah. One seeded Boston Celtics, definitely the best team in the East by far. Wins them 2 playoff games, hits a multiple clutch shots in game 4, if I recall correctly. It was game 5 in Boston.
Yeah, because that was at Boston, in which they had no business winning. Correct. Yes.
They had no business winning.
Into game 6. Yep.
Multiple clutch shots down the stretch of that game. Ultimately hits the game winner. Like, I have no problems about Trey showing up in big time games because of what we already seen. And then that leads into my second point. This is a perfect way of kind of in-game low managing LeBron James, where picture this, David, right? It's on the right side of the floor. It's a Trey Young, Anthony Davis pick and roll. On the right side, Trey Young, Anthony Davis pick and roll. On the left side, it's LeBron James in the wing or whatever. As Trey comes off, LeBron cuts. You have an 80 roll. You have shooter space now. That will be the most unstoppable action in basketball because you have a top 5 playmaker, a top 5 like rim catching threat, if you will, in the NBA and Anthony Davis, an elite off-ball player in LeBron, regardless of what people think the narrative is about Bron, and the floor space like that, you can't guard that. And then the thought process with Trey is Bron, in my opinion, realistically has 2 years left. I think if Bron does resign, I think LeBron's going to opt out, get a 2+1, the player option for the 3rd year, and get a no trade clause built into the contract. I think that's the most likely thing for Bron. And you have to think what happens post Bron. Well, you have a superstar, in my opinion, and a legit number one option in terms of like offensive engine. Can he run the offense? And like I said, you have a top 5 rim catching threat that can play one-on-one in his own right. And AD, he can help hide some of Trey's deficiencies because he is an elite defender. So I think there's question marks about the fit currently, but I think also long term, which I think the Lakers do kind of have to think about a little bit more now. Trey can be that guy next to AD. We're like, okay, Bron goes into the sunset. We're not in a state of mediocrity anymore. I mean, we're not in a state of mediocrity because LeBron left. We stopped training AD. Let's get them pieces. So let's go continue to compete.
Absolutely. And again, we are joined by Sean Davis. He does a wonderful job for Lakers Nation as an NBA analyst. Sean, I got 2 more for you. Always love chopping it up with you, man. So proud of everything you've done. You're going to continue to rise in our business. And speaking of continuing to rise, there's only one place up to go for LeBron. And I don't know where you fall in the GOAT debate. I'm as big a Kobe Bryant fan as there is. Okay. I would take Kobe in a season, but you cannot dismiss the longevity and the career of LeBron James. Where does LeBron rank for you all time among the Laker greats?
I thought you were going to put me on a spot there and ask me who my GOAT was, which
I know who it is. But... Yeah, I know who it is. Yeah. Right? Because if you're not born before 1990, it's going to be LeBron. It's going to be LeBron.
Which is why I think the GOAT debate is so like it doesn't even matter anymore, because if you are a guy, like I said before, born before 1990, you are like grew up watching MJ. I grew up
watching MJ.
Right.
Yeah, like Sean, like this is not my point. This is Chris Broussard's point. Like LeBron owned the East, Michael owned the NBA.
Okay,
you know what I mean? How do you explain LeBron in his and he listen? You cannot outrun this. The guy was in his prime. He was an MVP caliber player. He was in year number 8. He lost to a team with 1 All-Star, and he had 2 other All-Stars in his prime. Against San Antonio, when he should have been the MVP for 30 in a row, but they got tired of voting for him, so they wanted to give it to Kevin Durant, right, in 2014. Like, he gets blown off the court by San Antonio. You cannot explain that. You cannot justify that, you know? Yes, rebuttal. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Really,
Yeah.
respectfully,
Yes.
that 2014 Heat team was not good. D
Really?
Wade is on his last legs,
Well,
literally.
he played 5 more
Like
years, so how was he on his last legs?
he had one more really good year after that. Like D
He
Wade
was
is not.
he
He was.
was
He
getting
was
Sean. He was getting buckets in
no.
29. He was getting buckets in 29. He almost single-handedly beat the Warriors by himself. You remember that? You remember that shot, that game winner?
We're talking
Dwayne
about
Wade.
one game.
Dwayne Wade. I'm telling you. I remember it like it was yesterday. I know you do
I
too.
do
Like
too.
Dwayne Wade was putting up 13 to 15 points a game in his last year. He was still getting buckets. He was still their go-to
My
guy
guy.
in many of those games down the stretch.
Mike, those Heat teams when Braun left outside of 2016 were not good until
Chris
shit.
Bosh was a multiple-time All-Star after that. Unfortunately for Klotz, his career was cut short, but the guy was still a top 20 player in the NBA in 2014. And I mean, listen, I know he's a player coach for the last 6 years, but UD played in the NBA for another 10 years. You know,
We're saying played very loosely.
Okay. All right. UD's a stretch. But I mean, like, come on. Like, there was some. I mean, Mike Miller had a career after that. I know Battier retired that year. Rashard Lewis was still getting buckets. Ray Allen was still getting buckets. They had no business getting a gentleman sweep in that series. You know that. And look, listen, career longevity wise, I'm sorry, I hate to go here, but like longevity, you can't argue with anyone else because LeBron's he has all the numbers already.
So wait, this conversation is proving my point actually, right?
Yeah.
Because what I was going to say was we can have a 2-hour conversation.
If
your go is Jordan and my go is Braun, there's nobody. We are not leaving that conversation saying, I changed David's mind. Like, there's nothing.
But Sean, I
say
this in all due respect to you. I really do. But the problem you have going against you in this argument is that you didn't see Jordan play.
Sure.
I saw both of them.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm just more so making the point in general, and that's why the GOAT debate, in my opinion, isn't worth having, because, like I said, that as a factual statement, but that's not going to change my opinion at the end of the 2 hours. Or even, better example, somebody that watched Jordan and watched Braun, right? But their GOAT's still Braun, and you have a 2-hour conversation with them, he is still going to have Braun's his GOAT at the end of that conversation.
Look, I got to tell you something. What he is doing in year 21, I have never seen, and I include Tom Brady in this conversation. I include Novak Djokovic in this conversation. All-time great athletes that played 20-plus years and are still at the top of their sport. I have never seen anything remotely close to this from a basketball perspective, because if you're Tom Brady, you have protection. You don't need to rely so much on athleticism. It's on experience. It's on understanding cadences. It's just beating people with your mind. If you play basketball, you have to be able to do it athletically and on both sides of the court, even though everyone absolutely gets on LeBron for not playing defense 90% of the time. But that's in the whole other argument we can talk about as well, because the guy's in year 21. He's logged more minutes than anyone else in NBA history, postseason, regular season combined. He's afforded the right to do that. But yes, we could have a 2-hour conversation. So Sean, I want to apologize because we just had a really passionate back and forth there.
You're good. I love it.
Me too. But I don't really apologize. But when you talk about LeBron, where does he rank for you all time as an LA Laker?
I mean, let's see. Like, the obvious that you would have to put above Braun off the bat: Kobe, Kareem, Magic, Jerry, Elgin, Shaq. What's that? 7, right?
D Fish. I mean, are you a real like glue guy? Like, you consider like, the heart and soul of the team kind of argument there? Gail Goodrich.
If we wanted to go like the Derek Fisher, you would have to You would have to go with a lot more guys that I wouldn't just like feel comfortable with. But like, I mean, like I think that's right around the range where I started thinking about Braun as a Laker, which is why I don't mind Braun getting his jersey retired. Because I also think too, like, one of the things that Braun has done a really good job of since he's been in LA is like he's kind of been an ambassador of sorts for the organization, in my opinion, where like the Kobe thing happened, right? Obviously, incredibly tragic. Unfortunately, one of the 3 to 5 sports moments I could recall every single moment from that day like it was yesterday. And it was Braun that made the speech, gave the really touching speech a couple of days after when they played the Blazers at home. And they lose because I mean whenever it's a big night for the Lakers, they just can't help themselves but lose. They've lost every single Bron like record-breaking game. Now I think about it.
Well, half the time they always play the Nuggets in those kind of circumstances.
Right. When he passed MJ, I think it was Denver. When 40,000 points this year was Denver. Yeah, right. It's almost always Denver. But I think Bron's time as a Laker, I think we're going to remember it more and think about it more after he's done. Because honestly, I think if you ask me in 10 years, who do I think of first when I think of LeBron? I'm going to say Cleveland, obviously. And then second, I would go, I think you can make an argument for it being LA because that's ultimately if he resigns, or actually he's already been there. He's been there more
6 years versus 4, right?
Versus 4 Miami. Now, there's definitely the argument like, well, physical peak, it's very easily Miami Bron. And I'm like, okay, sure, you got me beat. But I think there's going to be a large portion of fans are going to say, no, I remember him from Cleveland Bron. Yes. But like very close second is going to be LA because of what all of the stuff I talked about, like his importance to the organization, kind of restoring the organization of sorts, where they were really in a slump, a bad one where Dave, I don't know if you remember this, they couldn't get anybody. I think what's the LaMarcus Aldridge that turned down the Lakers free agency interview.
It's a great point.
And Bron comes in and pretty immediately says, all right, let's get this thing going. Let's build this roster out. That first year, I thought the problem was they went too many ball handlers. And then the next year, they kind of built a Bron-esque team, wins the championship.
Sure.
And yeah, I think there's an argument to be had for him to be like top 10. And, you know, we're going to remember it a lot more fondly, I feel, post his career.
Absolutely. Sean, I want to get you out with this. Obviously, Sean Davis does a great job with Lakers Nation. When I've watched Anthony Davis for a long time. I remember him when he was at Kentucky. There's a reason why the only national championship John Calipari was able to accumulate came with coaching Anthony Davis, and that's with all the great players that he has coached. I will die on this hill.
Okay.
This is a very special time for big men in the NBA. Giannis, Joel Embiid, Jokic. Obviously Nikola Jokic, of course. I mean, those three guys.
Wemby.
Wemby, absolutely.
Bam.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put Bam in that. And those guys,
I know.
No, but you're right. Bam, listen, Bam will be a Hall of Famer. But those three guys are all time. No,
conversation for a different day.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we will have a part 2 of this. That I promise you, Sean. Whether I could come on your forum, whatever the case may be. But it is such a special time for big men in the NBA. There's obviously the reemergence of that. Anthony Davis, I watch him play when he is on. When he's on, he's the best big man in the world. What he can do on both sides of the floor. So I say that to ask you this. A guy that gifted and that talented, how do you get held in 3 straight games to a grand total of 1 made field goal in the 4th quarter? Explain to me the absolute hypocrisy and the confounding nature of Anthony Davis.
So I think it is a healthy combination of 2 things. I think number one, I cannot let AD off the hook. I think part of it is just not allowing myself to get kind of X'd out of the game. Like my biggest pet peeve, David, is when the Lakers late game offense at times would feature Anthony Davis being relegated to like Cleveland Cavaliers, Kevin Love, where it's like, my man, get your butt out of the corner, please. Like get in the high pose, set a ball screen, and do something. Because I mean, it's not like he's been a really good shooter since he's been here either. So 1, you're taking yourself out of the play, and 2, you're in a spot where you're not even in a position to be successful. 2, I do think some of that falls on the coaching staff personally, right? Because I think, and I'm relating this from like personal experience, right? So you brought up like I do coach. One of my jobs is I kind of run the offense, right? And I think as a coach, is your job to recognize certain patterns throughout the game and play call appropriately. And what game was it? I'm trying to recall from this series when AD went nuts. Quarters 1 through 3, best player on the floor easily. In the 4th quarter, he took like 1 shot. Was that game 1?
It was like 3 games.
Okay, maybe it was 3 games.
Yeah, he was clearly the best player on the floor. And then 4th quarter comes around. He's playing 9-10 minutes. It ain't like he's in foul trouble when he's Karl Anthony Towns. He's coming back for 2 minutes, right? Like, yeah. I mean, there was definitely game 3 Definitely game 2, where I don't think he had a single
I think it might have
shot
been
at
game
two.
1 through 3. It might have
Right,
been games 1 through 3.
right, right.
And like to my point about the coaching staff, it's like, bro, there is no way you can watch what AD did for 36 minutes and say, all right, AD, go park your butt in the corner. We're gonna let LeBron play pick and roll with Rui Hachimura. Like, excuse my language, hell no. Like that, absolutely not. We are not letting that happen. I thought in game, I want to say it was game 2 when Denver went to the adjustment and took Jokic off of AD. When I want to say they went Aaron. Yeah, they went Aaron Gordon on AD and went KCP on Braun. I thought like the schematic attack was like ridiculous, where they kept trying to hunt KCP in ball screens. Where I mean, he's an elite like ball screen defender, and then they went away from AD. Like, bro, I'm not going away from AD because of Aaron Gordon's on him. Aaron Gordon's a phenomenal defender, but bro, I am at least testing Aaron Gordon in the post. Like, AD, go on the post. We'll clear it out for you. Draw something up in the huddle. Go play one-on-one. Go be the best freaking player on the floor that you've been for the past 36 minutes. So right. I think it's a healthy amount of Braun / the coaching staff kind of icing AD out. And then also AD again. I can't leave him off, let him off the hook. AD, like, demand the ball, please. And, you know, like don't allow yourself kind of stand up for yourself in a way. Like, bro, I'm not gonna let myself get iced out. No, Darvin, Braun, what are we doing? Like, come on, give me the ball. So I think it's a healthy combination of those two things.
Absolutely. Well, Sean, I like to think that you and I going back and forth on the NBA is a very healthy combination, man. You can follow Sean Davis at Sean_Davy, DAVI. Make sure you hit him up. He does a wonderful job throughout the entire season covering the Lakers and giving you all the in-depth content you need to know about one of the most successful sports franchises we have in North America. Sean, thank you so much for your time, man. We got to do this again soon, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.